The Pasture Soil Health Project video series last visited Russ Wilson of Wilson Land and Cattle Company in 2014. This Forest County farm is known for diverse forages and a commitment to soil health. Let's hear more about Russ's work and changes taking place on the farm.
I guess my favorite part of working here with Russ is seeing how he's developed and how things have changed on the farm. The improvement that he's made here has been dramatic over a short span of time, and just seeing his desire to educate himself and try and do things the way he thinks it should be done. That's been really interesting, good to see. And seeing what he's been able to do here by thinking about how to protect resources, and he's actually become a voice for a lot of the resources. It's not just about the cows and the grazing here now. It's become a lot bigger than that. It's wildlife, it's soil biology, it's soil health, and all those things that we think are important for not only society and the farm economy, but also just for a good way of life for family farm. I guess one of the things that Russ has done here is he's had a mindset that he's not afraid to fail and try different things. And that sometimes is hard to convey, but I think in the long run it's really been a benefit here to actually think outside the box, if you want to use that saying. But those are things that, I guess, obstacles that a lot of people need to get over in order to see a different way of doing things.
This particular field's been a pretty interesting field. It's one of the test fields that we've done. There's 7 different species of grass, legumes, and forbs in this field. Well, this particular field here has orchard grass, fescue, crown vetch, sainfoin, white clover, chicory. The chicory's a little thick. Intermediate wheatgrass. There's just different species that we're trying here on the farm that would see what would work best on the farm and perhaps offset some of the other grazing to keep everything from not coming on all at one time. To try and help offset the stage of growth. Yes, this particular field will be winter stockpiled. We've actually grazed this particular field, I believe, 4 times this year. The last grazing on this field was September 6th of this year, and the regrowth is tremendous, I feel, without having any inputs put on this field. We haven't used any synthetic fertilizers on the farm this year, and this particular field hasn't been limed in 4 years. On this particular field, I would say probably around Thanksgiving time we'll probably start the livestock over here. That time of year is when our soils start getting to where they're too wet, that we have to be very careful how we graze without chewing the soil up, hugging it up, hurting the structure of the soil. That's very important, because if we harm the structure of the soil, we know it's going to be unproductive, probably perhaps for a couple of years. So we will have them on this farm, and they may only be out here for 4 hours a day, depending on the weather. We've found here with our wet soils, if it gets down to 18 degrees at night and we don't have standing water, the cattle can be out for at least 4 hours. And typically the sheep, they don't see the inside of the barn until sometime in February. They're usually out here. Now if it gets cold and rainy, we do get them shelter. But if it's just snowy and cold, the sheep can pretty much fend for themselves out here. The grasses that are out here we're grazing in the wintertime more than meet the needs of our gestational beef cattle and gestational sheep.
Russ plans to add to his potential winter forage by planting and managing a field of bamboo in early 2017.
Well, bamboo, it's going to need to get established naturally. But the main goal or main reason for bamboo is for winter grazing. Bamboo typically holds its leaves and it holds a very high feed value through the wintertime. Studies suggest up to 24% crude protein. So, you know, that's the main reason, is to maybe instead of grazing until the 1st of February or into March, perhaps, you know, instead of, you know, we can go through this season a little bit later with the bamboo. You know, for the most, I don't clip my pastures. My pastures are not clipped. I prefer to do my management with the livestock. As soon as you turn the key on the tractor, you're using diesel fuel. And fossil fuel is your second largest input on the farm, number one being human labor. Here in the farm, we've developed a set of plans. We have a wet weather plan, a drought plan, we have a hot weather plan, and we have a cool weather plan, or cold weather plan. And those plans for us are a go-to, such as this year we were in a stage 1 drought. We had 9/10 of an inch of rain in 90 days. We didn't wait until we had those problems upon us to say, let's go figure out what we're going to do about this. We already have it in writing what our plan is, and we can just go to the plan and do what's necessary to get through, say, a rocky time, I guess. You know, this year we needed to use our drought plan. With being in a stage 1 drought, one of the things in the drought plan is to perhaps destock some of our livestock so they're not eating near as much grass, because naturally in a drought your grass is not growing as near as much. And being one of the things that we can do, you know, in the drought plan, you know, you can pull the livestock off pasture and feed them hay naturally. But with the cattle prices being as high as they are, we opted to get rid of or destock some of our cows that weren't necessarily as efficient grazers as some of the other ones. We took the opportunity to do so in that aspect. One of the great things by the high stock density grazing and doing what we're doing, by the high stock density grazing and using the multi-species grazing, that is kind of sort of one of our drought plans. We're working against a drought and a cold, well, we're actually working for all 4 plans throughout the whole year by doing what we're doing. We can show yields of 12,000 pounds of dry matter per acre on our farm. That's not our worst fields, that's not our best fields. We do not test every field because it's just so labor intensive. But that's on an average. You know, it may fluctuate just a little bit. This year it's a little less because we had to drought. But we show the 12,000 pounds of dry matter yield per year. We utilize 6,000 pounds of that through our livestock, our above ground livestock. We utilize 4,000 pounds of that through our below ground livestock, our microbes, our earthworms, and you know, you have your funguses, your bacteria, your algae. The life below ground is more than it is above ground. And that's one of the important things for us. Having our below ground livestock allows us to do what we're doing. We're not putting the inputs we used to on the farm. We have not bought any synthetic fertilizers for our pasture fields in the last 2 years. The only synthetic fertilizer we have used is for our corn as a starter only. And then the 2,000 pounds that I didn't talk about yet is armor for the soil. We leave that above ground. That armors the soil for whenever it's dry. In September 6th, I believe it was, we had some folks here. We were shown an ambient temperature or of 91 degrees. You slip that probe in underneath that armor on the soil. It was 70 degrees. Our grass was still actually growing, and at that point, I think we were 65 or 70 days dry. We could actually pull that mulch back off the top of the soil. We actually had active earthworms. It was 91 degrees out, and typically, once your soil's temperatures go to 80 degrees or above, your cool season grasses virtually stop growing. Our grasses were still able to grow by having that extra armor and doing the extra protection that we've taken to leave the high stubble height and tramp and just graze what we need to and move on. We get in, we get out, and we let that grass regrow and heal.
In July 2014, Russ planted approximately 12 acres of warm season grasses, including big bluestem, Indian grass, and switchgrass. He plans to frost seed beneficial flowers and native legumes into the stand to provide a forage that peaks when cool season grass growth slows over the summer. It'll attract pollinators and other beneficial insects to the farm and provides habitat for songbirds and barn swallows that help keep fly populations under control.
We grazed the warm season grasses, I believe it was September 4th. You really don't want to, in this area, you don't really want to graze past mid-September because you need it to recover and regrow and get the carbohydrate storage in its root mass in order to take it through winter. Unfortunately, the sheep come in mid-December because of the stage 1 drought we had last fall. We had full intentions of putting a sheep on turnips, rutabaga, and some other cover crops, but being it was so dry, we were unable to get those established. So they were in mid-December, and we turned them back out March 14th or March 12th of this year. They've been out grazing since March 12th or March 14th, whichever. And the cows, we were actually able to keep them on stockpiled forages until February 23rd, until the soils become too wet and compromising the soil biology and the composition of the soil with the livestock. We had to bring them back in. The cows we turned back out, good thing you can edit. The cows, we turned them back out April 27th of this year, and they've been out ever since. We always are concerned about water. For some reason, the way the mountains lie here, either the rains either go north or south. It may be 30 days in between quarter-inch rain showers. So we intentionally leave our grasses higher, and we do try, I guess, what I call is drought proofing. We're driving soil roots deeper so we can access the moisture. It has been a very dry spring. Last year we went 90 days with approximately an inch of rain. So yeah, we are concerned about the climate change. Okay, we have made some livestock changes on the farm as usual. All livestock farms make changes on a regular basis. Last year we took advantage of the high market prices. We were able to get rid of some of our hard-doing cows. We actually eliminated 12 or 24 mama cows on the farm. We've started doing a little bit of custom grazing. We have 10 animal units here on the farm, which is equivalent to 20 custom grazed dairy heifers. We also brought in some black Spanish goats from Texas. We've decreased our sheep flock. We're increasing our goat flock. So yeah, we're making changes daily. The geese. Oh yeah, we brought in geese. The geese are to help maybe perhaps control the Canadian goose problem we have on our pond, and we also have been entertaining the idea of using them as weeder geese in the cornfields. Oh, we're continually researching innovations and techniques that's going to help us be more profitable here on the farm. We're working in the process, we're doing a lot of research in native species. I believe that there's a lot of native grasses and plants that have been overlooked in as grazing forage. And naturally there's always something here that I want to build to make my life easier or make the family's life easier. So yeah, there's always innovation, there's always going to be innovation, and we'll be streamlining and try and make the farm more profitable.
The first time we came out to see Russ, actually he stopped into the office, and you know, he was really kind of struggling. They had a mess behind the barn where the cattle were, because they only had maybe 20 acres fenced in for the cattle, and you know, it was a real strain on them trying to get in there and feed hay and to watch the animals kind of struggle in that mud. And rather than come out and really propose a heavy use area, you know, we came out and Tim Elder and I kind of said, hey, why don't you rotationally graze? And well, you know, tell me more about that. And Tim says, well, you know, you could move your animals up to once a day. And I know Russ, once a day, that's never going to happen. Fast forward, you know, 5 years till now, and he's moving them 8, 10 times a day. You know, he's really changed his thinking from, you know, bringing everything to the animals, and, you know, really he was kind of dictated whatever they needed. You know, that's what he had to take to them. Now he's, you know, he's watching the grass, and he takes them to the grass and gets them out there, and he doesn't have these muddy spots. They're happier, healthier, and so is Russ. I'd like to see Russ be able to graze the majority of the year, but I guess that's really dependent on what the soils are going to do. But as he's got permanent vegetation out here and the root mass is getting bigger, it allows more water to infiltrate. It's going to really help to stabilize his soils. For every 1% organic matter that he's able to build into the soil, that's able to hold 1 inch of water per acre. So if we get a 1-inch rainstorm over 1 acre, that's 27,000 gallons. So as he increases and improves his soil health, he's going to be able to store more of that water. He's going to have less time, he's be less prone to drought, and the soils will be more stable when it is soft. So I think down the road it's exciting to see what's going on out here from where it was when we first started working, when he would get puddling in the fields and runoff. Now it's, you know, it rains out here, and he can be grazing after, you know, a big storm pretty quickly, because that soil is able to take that moisture up. Well, it's gone from, you know, looking at a soil test to actually looking at the soil and looking at the life in the soil, looking at how crumbly the soil is. You know, he's really changed the way that he thinks about soil, from a what do I need to put on it to what can I grow in it, or how can I treat it so that it's going to give back to me. So over the last 5 or so years, we've been working with Russ. He's done an excellent job of kind of promoting rotational grazing just through people driving by and seeing what's going on. I would say in about a 5 square mile radius, he's probably gotten 90% of the farms interested in rotational grazing. A couple of those have already implemented rotational grazing, setting up different paddocks and installing water systems. The other farms have a plan written and are looking to implement. And you know, Russ is a great resource right here. That, you know, they can drive by, they see something different is going on, and he's willing to talk to them and promote soil health and rotational grazing, help them with any questions. And Russ is in it for the environmental benefits. He could care less whether he makes a dime off it. He wants to see his neighbors be successful at farming and be able to raise a family affordably and do well with agriculture. So he's been a tremendous advocate for soil health and grazing.
To learn more about the Pasture Soil Health Project video series, visit capitalrcd.org.